another panther. Oh, these panthers are really out to get him. Realistically, in a jungle situation, you're not going to encounter that many predators wanting to kill you, although I have met a gentleman in Brazil who was attacked by a jaguar. Got leeches on him. Yeah, lots of leeches in the jungle. Just kind of stick your finger into those guys and pry them off. Insects are great. If you're going to go for insects, grasshoppers are great, locusts are great, cicadas are great.
Hi, I'm Kinga Philipps.
I'm a survival expert, an outdoors person. I like going out into the wilderness and preferably not dying. This is Experts React Green Hell Part 2. I have done an Experts React to Green Hell before. It was actually one of my favorite games. I love jungles in real life and on screen. They are just such a cool environment, so super rich. Also a really interesting place for survival. So this is a game that I really enjoy. So this is Green Hell Part 2 that I'm doing now. I've spoken to Green Hell before. I really like this game because I love jungle. So our guy is already out there. It looks like he is hunting something. He's taken something down. He's got a spear and he got himself an, oh wow, an indigenous person. Okay, I would say this is actually quite frowned upon, killing the indigenous natives in the Amazon. Plus also in a survival situation, I have interacted with remote tribes in the Amazon and they're really lovely people and they have a wealth of knowledge. So if you are hunting and killing them, you are not only murdering, but you are also missing out on the knowledge that they have. So now he is being attacked by a panther. So one of the things that you could potentially encounter in a jungle that would be detrimental to your health are very large predators like big cats. A spear is great protection. You've got to be able to make one, first of all, and then you've got to be able to use it. This person has already made themselves a spear, so that's really great. Jungles are phenomenal environments. They offer a lot. They also require a lot. So one of the main dangers in a rainforest is the fact that the water table is really high. So the plants there are easily accessing water, which means that their root systems don't have to go down as deep. So in a jungle, if the wind starts blowing and there's a storm coming, trees are going down. And you see that a lot. People are very often killed by trees. So the first thing you should be aware of is making sure that if the wind starts blowing, you put yourself in a position where maybe you are in a cave or up against some rocks or somewhere where you're not going to get killed by a fallen tree. Then obviously you have big predators and things like that. And then it's going to come down to sourcing water and building yourself a shelter. And people think, oh, it's the jungle, it's warm. It's not. And very often at night during the winter, it gets really cold there. So you are going to want to be aware of that and make sure that you have some kind of a lean-to that you've built. So it's actually funny that we mentioned cannibalism because that's kind of become my thing with gamology, because I pointed out that in a dire situation, you're going to take what you can get. And if it's human flesh, it's human flesh. Now, in a jungle situation, you probably don't need to go the route of eating humans. Can you eat humans in a dire survival situation? As evidenced by the Andes plane crash and the Donner Party, yes, you can. Is there going to be psychological trauma to that? Yeah, sure. If it helps you to survive though, is it worth it? Yeah. If you do have to take down a human, make sure they're dead first. And then go for the big muscle groups like the glutes, for instance. You want to avoid the brain and all those parts for many reasons. But yes, you can eat human flesh if you absolutely need to. In a jungle, you have multiple sources of food. Go eat some bugs before you go eat a native person or any person for that matter. Please, please. So we see in this game that he was attacked by a panther. Big cats are the main large predators in a jungle, and you want to avoid them. They are incredibly powerful, much more powerful than you. In a jungle situation, you want to travel during the day and you want to shelter at night because most of these big cats are going to hunt at night. Having some kind of a weapon, a spear, is good. Keeping a fire going at night is really important. And, make noise as you're walking through the jungle. Most of these animals want to avoid you. You don't really necessarily want to sneak up on them. So we are crossing over some kind of a log here. I do love that he has the spear. He's got the spear for protection. He could use that for fishing. Lots of fish in the Amazon. That is going to be a great source of food for you. Lots of plants there as well. Again, don't mess with the plants if you don't know what they are. The jungle offers a lot. So look for things that you recognize. You can recognize bananas, maybe some passion fruit, maybe some pineapples, maybe some mangoes. those are fruits that are readily recognizable and pretty much readily available. If you have palm trees with coconuts, that's a great source of electrolytes, liquid, and the coconut meat is really good as well. He's sourcing bananas here. That's a pretty obvious plant. Most people know what a banana looks like. So that is something that you can eat without too much concern. Mushrooms, just stay away from mushrooms. I really suggest, unless you are an expert in mushrooms, just to avoid those. Bamboo is also something that's really great for building material. You can also break it apart and you can use it as a water canister. Oh, here's another one that has built himself a multi-story house. Wow, look at this, impressive. So he's already got fire. Again, fire is something that you're gonna want in a jungle in any situation. I see him using turtle shells there. That's really great. Turtle meat is something you can eat, and then those shells are really valuable because you can use them to save water in. He's got a lot of cordage. Wow, he's planning himself either a bungee jump or to build up that really, really impressive house there. Again, in the average survival situation, you're not probably gonna have a multi-layer house on stilts to avoid flooding, I suppose. He's really thinking ahead there. He really wants it to have good resale value. I see he's got a backpack, he's got all sorts of things, that's great. So maybe he got lost hiking in the jungle. Now, if you are lost and hiking in the jungle, a great survival tool that you can have is a whistle, because people are going to be looking for you, and yelling in the jungle not only expands a lot of energy, but also the jungle muffles that. So your sound does not carry very far in a jungle, where a whistle will. The smoke from a fire might let planes flying overhead know where you are, which is really nice because the jungle canopy is really thick. This guy's got a lot of food options there. He's got bananas, got some kind of meat there. I see that some of these things are unknown. Again, if it's an unknown mushroom, unknown plant, you don't need to eat that. You can use the testing method of rubbing something on your arm, on your lip, on your tongue, and then tasting it, waiting a couple hours in between to see if you have a reaction, but that's really dire straits. Now, to get yourself out of a jungle, he looked like he backpacked in there, maybe got lost. Jungles are incredibly confusing because there aren't a lot of points of reference, since it's really trees, 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 and more trees. You can't see the jungle for the trees, they always say. If there's a high point that you can get to, if there's a hill that you can climb, if there is a tree that you can climb safely so you don't injure yourself, that will give you a bird's eye view so you have an idea. Maybe there's a structure you can see, a hillside, a river, something that you can use as a reference point. If you're moving through the jungle, put your focus on one thing in front of you. Maybe it's a hill, maybe it's a distinctive tree, and one thing behind you. Because what a lot of people in survival situations do, and they find out after they've been rescued, is they spend a lot of time walking in circles. That's not just in jungles, that's everywhere. So use something as a reference point ahead of you, one thing behind you so you know you're moving away from something, moving towards something. He has a water source here. Now, a great way to refine civilization is if you do find a river, follow that river downstream. Civilizations were built historically around water, and really that's still to this day where a lot of our civilizations are. Ideally, you want to access running water that's fast moving, has the least likelihood of having pollutants and bacteria and viruses in it, but even that you're gonna wanna boil. Otherwise, you wanna collect rainwater. That's gonna be your cleanest source of drinking water, that and dew, if you can't boil it, but any other water you are definitely gonna boil. So if you're lost in a jungle and you know you're gonna have to build a shelter because you do wanna protect yourself from the elements, you're gonna wanna protect yourself from rain, you wanna protect yourself from predators, from heat loss, because it can get cold in the jungle, or from the sun, you wanna protect yourself from that too. Being close to a water source is good because we need water. You know you're gonna have to access that. Sometimes you can look for animal trails to be able to find water because animals are gonna be moving to and fro from water. You can follow bees and insects as they need to drink water as well. If you are going to set up a shelter, being near water is good, but far enough away that if there is a flash flood or excessive runoff, you're not gonna get washed away. So being near water is a good thing. You're gonna wanna build a lean-to, a debris hut, something that protects you. In a jungle, it's extra important to keep yourself off the ground because you've got a lot of creepy crawlies there that you just don't want getting into your underpants. Nobody wants that. He's washing himself. Hygiene is really important, something that you can do to preserve your hygiene. I remember reading about this in the US Army Survival Guide when I was a kid. Those were the books I read because I was super nerdy. You can take your underpants and you can boil them in water and wash them because it is important to have clean underwear. and other clothing. You don't want to be covered in dirt and schmutz and animal blood, and you're gonna end up with some kind of an infection. So being clean is good. We all wanna look good, even in the wilderness. So he is like right next to this water. I probably would have built my shelter a little bit further away. The jungle rains a lot, so you don't know if that river or that lake is gonna swell and flood your place, although he has thought ahead and he's built on stilts. He is looking at things to cook there. One thing in jungles that's difficult is jungles are very moist. I know everyone hates that word, but that's what jungles are. And starting a fire in a jungle can be really tough. So you definitely want to tear apart some trees and look for anything that you can find that you can roll into some tinder and then place some dry kindling around that. And then once you've got a fire going, you can put some of the damper pieces on there and they should keep going. That is the metal armor that he has crafted. Maybe he just put it on himself. I'll be very curious to see what he does with this armor. I mean, I'd like to learn a thing or two. Maybe I should start crafting armor when I'm out in the wilderness. Lots of rocks that he can use as knives and blades. I haven't seen him have a knife yet or a machete. A machete is a really useful tool. If I were to be lost in the wilderness, any wilderness, and I had one item with me, I would want that to be a knife or a machete. In the jungle, you don't really want to touch a lot with your hands because the plants will sting you, the bugs will sting you, the spiders will bite you, the snakes will bite you. So if you're moving through a jungle, a machete is really great. He looks like he's making an arrow there with the feathers. Feathers are super useful. You can actually use them as kindling to start a fire as well. Again, that's super advanced survival. Like the average person that's in a survival situation is not going to need to make a bow and arrow and probably could not make a bow and arrow. It's kind of like starting fire. Like, oh, I watched, survival expert do that once. Yeah, good luck with that. I see a lot of birds over there. A great way to hunt in a jungle or anywhere is to set up snares. Again, hunting big game is going to expand a lot of energy and you've got to be proficient at it. Otherwise, you are going to be running and chasing and fighting, and it's going to cost you a lot of calories, and that's what you're trying to preserve. If you are thirsty in any survival situation, avoid eating because digestion actually uses water. And you don't want to be doing that. Even talking a lot uses water. So if you are in an environment where it is important to preserve your water intake and not get dehydrated, eating is not your priority. And having conversations with self, unless you're just really talking yourself up, are probably unnecessary as well. So now it looks like maybe it's getting darker. Water, he's got clean water there. He's already cleaned that. That looks like maybe he caught some from the rain. That is a good way to do that. Just make sure that whatever container it goes into doesn't immediately contaminate. Rainwater is generally safe. It can get some environmental pollutants in it, but if it goes into something filthy, then that's not going to be a good thing. This guy is pretty well stocked on food. Those bananas are great, going to offer a lot of potassium for you, some fuel. A beautiful home there, a beautiful jungle home. Very impressed with all of this. His tools, his setup, it looks like he has that out for drying meat, maybe smoking meat. Lots of animals that you can eat in the jungle. Insects are great. If you're gonna go for insects, termites are delicious and they actually taste a little bit like carrots. They're really nutritious. Ants, you can boil them to get rid of that acidic taste. Just make sure they're dead or they're gonna bite you on the way down. Grasshoppers are great, locusts are great, cicadas are great. Avoid snails and slugs because if they had been feeding on poisonous plants, you're going to ingest that. If you're really down for some escargot, take them, put them on plants that you know are safe and basically allow them to purge for a couple of days. Realistically, there are a lot of other options in the jungle of what you can eat that you're not going to need to do that. Oh, it's a capybara. Capybara is basically a large wild rodent, and he just took one down. Again, hunting, not necessarily your priority, but this guy has been out there for a really long time. So he's cutting up the meat, he's quartering it, he wants to gut it, get rid of the insides immediately, especially the digestive tract. That's where all the icky is, and you don't want to eat that. Now he's probably gonna take it back home. Maybe he's gonna smoke it, maybe he's gonna sun dry it, he's gonna cook a couple pieces really well so that he doesn't get any kind of a disease from his capybara. His backpack there, so he probably has some good things. Yeah, so it does look like he's gonna cook, maybe build himself a fire. Got bones, those pieces of meat. Okay, so maybe he's putting it up on a smoking rack. That's a really good idea. That's a great way to preserve meat for as long as possible. Again, multiple ways to build fires. The most important thing is having dry tinder and kindling, as small pieces as humanly possible. A lot of mushrooms and funguses, especially that grow on trees, are a really great source of tinder for a fire if they are dry because they're super powdery. Leaves you can use, there's cattails there. That's a really nice thing as well. He's gonna start it the old-fashioned way. The really primitive ways of starting fires look great for TV, and they are definitely doable. And in a super dire situation, it's great to have those skills. But if you don't already have those skills, it's gonna be near impossible for you to try to start a fire with some of these really primitive methods. He clearly has made his home here. He's not really interested in getting out of the jungle. Like I said, water is a great path to follow. And even if you're following it for a while and you're not finding civilization, at least you are next to a water source, which is really great. Another panther. Oh, these panthers are really out to get him. Realistically, in a jungle situation, you're not going to encounter that many predators wanting to kill you, although I have met a gentleman in Brazil who was attacked by a jaguar, and what saved him for two things: his backpack on his back, because big cats like to go for your throat. You know, the back of your neck or your throat, they're going to basically snap your spinal cord. His uncle had a gun, so he took down the jaguar, but he did show me the claw marks on his back. Mud walls, all right, so he's gonna build himself a mud wall in the jungle, mud doorway, mud side door. Wow, what kind of a book is this? Do they sell them at Home Depot? I would like to learn more about this. So he is building up his house. He's like, all right, I've been here a long time. No one's coming to get me. I don't really care about trying to walk out of this jungle. I'm kind of enjoying my time here. I've got water, I've got food, I've got armor. If it wasn't for those darn panthers that keep attacking me, I could really live here quite pleasantly for some time. He's bringing these mud bricks. There are some really good recipes for mud bricks out there. Mixing them with something fibrous to keep the mud together and then essentially firing them in a kiln. You are probably never going to be in a survival situation long enough to have to fire some bricks to build yourself a home. So wow, his beautiful new home is really lovely. I mean, maybe he's hoping to like entertain some lady friends. I don't know. He's like, oh, maybe some hot chick will get lost in the jungle too. I can invite her over to my house for some turtle soup. Lots and lots of plant life there. Good thing. Just don't eat anything that you don't know. There are plenty of berries and such in the jungle that will kill you. This guy's really into his hygiene. He's already bathed twice today. He's one of those people that wakes up and showers and then showers before bed. He's like, I can't sleep if I'm dirty. All right, so he's using the tortoise shell there to make himself something, and maybe that was turtle soup. He's got leeches on him. Yeah, lots of leeches in the jungle. Just kind of stick your finger into those guys and pry them off. Leeches are always super creepy looking. They're actually not as problematic as you might think. Lots of other things in jungles to worry about other than leeches. Definitely least of your worries there. I love Green Hell as a game, and I love the jungle space as a survival space or just a visitation space, hopefully not always needing to survive. But for more Gamology videos, head over to Facebook and YouTube. For more experts react, subscribe to Gamology. I mean, this guy is crafting armor. Is he going to war? I'm not really sure what he's doing. Jungles are one of the coolest environments for survival. They're also one of the most difficult and one of the most treacherous because there's a lot out there that can get you.